right. So let's talk about hormones and perimenopause and all the things that I hear in my DMs and on applications and when I'm talking to clients and they're like, what is wrong with me? Why am I not trying hard enough? Why won't my doctor help me? And I'm like, listen, we got it wrong. So I had to bring in the expert, had to bring in Jenn and have this conversation. You were like the queen of, I don't want to say the queen of hormones, but I just think the queen of female health.
Well, thank you. That's a huge compliment. And I'm over here trying, it's like, even when we talk about the subject of perimenopause, it's massive. I always joke with women when they come into, a webinar, courses, a program, like we could just pack our jammies and our toothbrush and stay here for 10 days to really unpack it all. But at the high level, for that woman who feels like she's doing everything right, yet her body is just not responding, or the places that she's trying to seek support and coaching and advice and help, she feels like she's constantly hitting a brick wall. In some ways, it's even more challenging for that woman because in the other areas of her life, she feels like she can dial in and she can make things happen. And when it comes to perimenopause, it's such a long period of time in our life. And there's a lot of fluctuations that'll happen. It's like, in the beginning, you don't really think you're in it. You're like, there's a few things changing, but I got this, I can manage it. And then as time goes on, you're like, nope, things are definitely changing. That's usually around the time when women will try and seek out the support. And that is then also the time of the greatest frustration, because it's not for lack of trying. It's not for lack of asking. It's that oftentimes you end up in the wrong room,
Yeah.
right? In the wrong space, or you are just dismissed.
So I talk a lot about managing your energy. You and I have had many conversations about this, but the one thing, there's 4 types of energy: mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical. And physical to me is the physical management of actual time, like the 24 hours in a day, but it's also your physical body. And so many people, I think, are doing other types of energy management and kind of avoidant towards the physical part, that you can do all the things you want to do, but if you're actually avoiding the thing that is sucking the life out of you from a physical perspective. So can we dive into that when it comes to what you notice? Like, I'm talking to the ambitious woman who's got bills to pay and children to feed. And she's like, if I drowned, if my brain turns off, like if I'm not on my energy game, my creativity is not there, other people are going to be affected by this. And then she's seeking out the professional help, but she's not getting the answers. How can we do less better? What do you say to that woman? What does she need to do ASAP?
Stop trying to circumvent a system that was never designed to help you in the first place.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is we've been taught and trained that our family doctor is the be all end all and that they know everything, right? They're a general practitioner. It's like jack of all trades. They have very little, if any, specific training when it comes to women's health and hormones. So we can understand this. If you hire somebody who presents with a thyroid issue, you get a requisition to go and see an endocrinologist. If there are major, OB issues that are happening and gynecological issues, you potentially will get given a referral for that. When it comes to perimenopause and menopause, very rarely will that happen. And most women, especially the ambitious women, are told things like, you just need to, de-stress more often. And have you thought of meditation and taking a day off? And like that woman wants to throttle the doctor because they're like, that's not what this is. And so we're taking ourselves into the wrong room and we're hoping for support from someone that has never been trained to offer that support. So step number 1 is stop trying to insert yourself in a system that was never designed to help you at this time of your life in the first place. The second is start to figure out who are the people, like who is either the functional medicine doctor, the naturopathic doctor, the integrative practitioner who will actually create the time in the space, because those 2 ingredients are critical to create any momentum in your health. If you only have 10, 15 minutes with somebody, which would be what would happen, and I'm being generous with that, it's typically half the amount of time with your doctor, there is no possible way to understand the individual sitting across from you, like who you are as a woman, all the facets and pieces of your life, in your work, in your family, in your home, in your body, all of that. So you want to make sure you're working with somebody who does a thorough intake. They understand the timeline of how you have gotten to become and be the woman that you are today, and where all these symptoms and all of these signs and everything started to happen. It's like we have to look back to understand, like, in some ways, it's like, where is the original fracture? In other ways, it's like, where is the root of when things started to feel like the system was beginning to unravel? And then from there, it's working with somebody who can not just tell you, go buy these things, go take this thing, and like be on your way. That's what we can do for you. It's working with someone who's going to help you to understand. So I identify as that woman who's an achiever, ambitious. I run a company. I have a family. I'm very like, cerebral. Like I take it up top. I try and digest and understand. The problem sometimes that can happen and arise with that is we try to logicize everything. And when you're going through these huge changes hormonally, you want to work with a practitioner who can help you implement a certain level of structure and protocol or routine that's going to work for that period of time in your life, knowing that there's going to be another fluctuation and you're going to need to go in and just massage that approach a little bit. And then there's going to be another fluctuation. Like for us, Heather, the average period of time a woman will go through perimenopause is generally about a decade. Early perimenopause, most women don't connect to or realize this is what's happening. They just think they're tired, they're stressed, they need to work out more, they need to eat better, whatever that might be. And then when you get into like mid stage of perimenopause, as I said earlier, this is where your sleep is impacted, body composition is changing, your brain is functioning differently. Like you can't articulate the things that are in you the same way you used to be able to. It's very difficult to focus. So and I don't think that there is any coincidence that the majority of women who are, showing up in life with neurodivergence and ADHD are also in that perimenopausal window. And I do see a lot of like, let's just slide it under that right now without addressing, well, if she's going through hormonal deficiencies, if her adrenal function is also deficient, if her body needs like a new normal in terms of calibration, how could we possibly expect that her brain is going to be able to function in the same way? That, her sleep is going to be on point, her performance, her recovery, her libido, her desire. When women come into practice and they say, I just have I feel like my testosterone's in the tank, I have no libido. I spent a lot of time unpacking that because I'm like, is it libido in the way of sexual arousal, desire, or is it literally desire in life in general? Is it that you don't care about what's happening in the bedroom? Or if you're honest, you just literally don't really care. You don't have that same kind of oomph that you used to. And if you're a high achiever and you're an ambitious woman, we need a lot of dopamine in order to feel like we are creating impact, we're being productive, we're contributing out into the world, we're achieving our heart-centered goals. And as our brain changes in perimenopause, we literally have more dopamine cells that start to die off at that time than any other time in our life outside of post-pregnancy. And so it's massive. And some women will feel that more than others. All of a sudden they'll say, I have anxiety and I've never had anxiety before. I feel depressed and I've never had that. Or, I used to have a really long threshold with my own personal capacity and with patience. And now I snap or I am, just thrown off by the littlest thing. These are the things that you want to be talking to your practitioner about and having somebody who can hold that space for.
So what do you say to the person? Because I believe belief has a lot to do with this as well. Mm-hmm. Looking at my own journey, and I'm looking behind you. You have the sign that says write your own story. And what keeps coming up for me is and I think you and I are similar in the sense of we're future focused in the sense of what is that vision, right? What's that how, but we also will not settle for normal. Mediocre. And so when someone says to me, this is what it is, I'm that's a red flag. I'm like, it is not. You have a belief that you're supposed to feel like shit because you are of a certain age, or because somebody outside of you has told you that something needs to be a certain way. Like you've given up, you've kind of become apathetic. And I'm like, if you don't fight for the life you want or how you want to feel in your body, I know in my own personal experience, and I can hear people saying this, okay, I've left the doctor's office. I understand my general practitioner is not going to support me in this perimenopausal journey, but I've done the dance in the functional space and I'm still losing hope. What is wrong with me? What do you say to that person? Because I guarantee you a lot of people that show up in your space, it's not their first time receiving some of this testing. So like, what do you say to those people that are like, maybe I'm just broken, maybe my body, maybe it's my hormones, maybe, I'm just going to feel like shit for the rest of my life?
Honestly, the first thing I say is, I get it. I get it. Like it is noisy and confusing right now. And here's the other thing I want to say. Just because someone's a naturopath or a functional medicine doctor doesn't mean you're necessarily going to have a better experience. And the reason that that is true is that, yes, those practitioners have far more training when we're looking at like full capacity of what's going on. But we are living in a time right now where the woman who is sitting on her device or in front of her computer, she is actually more resourced and has more accessibility to tools than a lot of the practitioners do, because those practitioners are working day in and day out in their practice. And unless they are required for continuing education credits, or they have a desire to want to go and learn beyond the scope of practice they were taught, you also may go to ND after ND or FMD or whatever and be like, I didn't get given a prescription for an antidepressant, but I left with like a brown paper bag of a whole bunch of drops and remedies and pills, and I still don't friggin' know anything different. So I think we're sitting in this period of time right now where, there's equal education that's happening on both sides of it. The industry is trying to catch up to the woman is being told she needs to demand. And this is going to, I think, for women who are looking for someone to work with, you are looking for a hybrid. So I don't think that most women are going to get exactly what they want in 1 hour sessions, even though it's far more time. I really do believe that you have to allow yourself to be educated. And when working with the woman who's already like, I don't want to learn, just tell me. For me, it's a red flag. So it's interesting how it works. Like as a practitioner, if someone says, just tell me what to do, I don't want to learn, I'm like, I'm probably not for you then, because I know this story. I know what will happen. And your belief that aligning with someone who'll just tell you what to do is actually going to prevent you from taking responsibility and doing the things day to day in your life that you need to do. And what I mean by that, if we pull that back to even higher level, is I can give you hormones. I can give you botanicals, herbs, homeopathy, supplements. I can give you a kick-ass meal plan. I can dial your macros in down to the gram. I can give you the best workout plan. What I can't do is move into your house. I can't help to modulate all the things that are really impacting your adrenals and your nervous system. And that is where it's like, this is the fusion. So if you have a little bit more knowledge about why I'm saying, Heather, it's super important for you to do these things in the morning, to take these things, to stay with this for X amount of time. And now you go, oh, okay, so you're telling me if I take these things, like I'm going to have more energy. My brain is going to feel like my own again. I'm going to be able to get back to like my energy output and my capacity sooner than later. Got it. Versus, I have no idea. I'm just told to take these things and it's got these bottles and like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's all about empowerment and done. It's like done for you versus like done with you.
Yeah.
And there are some things that you cannot outsource in life. And I believe women's health, like knowing yourself and your body and having that little bit of education that can go such a long way. I've noticed a difference in myself, and I think it's a continuous education. Even like when I leave, when I'm traveling, I used to panic, and I'd be at home with my routines and I would do my things and I take the things, and then leaving, I'm like, it's okay. We go with the flow because you have that education piece and you're not just in this cycle all the time of, I'm going to wait till I'm in crisis. Then I'm going to get help again. Then I'm going to do what they tell me to do. And then after that, I'm going to feel really good. And then I'll wait. And then I'll be in crisis again. And it's like, no, like picking it up so I can now go to an optimization instead of a place of survival.
Yeah. And understanding that as your body goes through different changes and phases, your body is not broken. Your body is not working against you. Your body does not have a vendetta against you. But if you really do believe that, and that's like the negative self-talk, and that is the energy in the story that you are in it, even that it's like, it's very difficult, to create momentum moving forward if that's your core belief. So sometimes it's also working with somebody who isn't a functional medicine practitioner, but it's working with somebody who can work on, like the emotional side of it. And really, when I said a while ago what that original fracture from self is, like why we believe that that's what's happening, for the woman who's like, from the day I had a period, I felt like my hormones were working against me, always in pain, always discomfort, difficulty through pregnancy, now difficult time through perimenopause. And if the stories all around her were from other women and her mother, grandmother, whomever, that was like, it sucks to be a woman. It's horrible to have a period. Menopause is brutal. Just like grin your teeth, bear it, and just like get through it. That's been a lot of the messaging for so long, and a lot of fear. So again, for that woman who is like, for me, I'm like, I don't negotiate with fear. Right? Like fear is there, it's present, I feel it. And I work in a way in my life to diffuse it, because the question I will always ask myself, like, is that true for me? Is that true for me? In every area, I could be watching somebody in my industry do something and it'd be so amazing for them. And then I'll feel that thing that's like, oh, I should go do that. And then I go, well, is that true for me? I can watch another woman that's 45. I'm 45, who is already on estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHA, and she's like, oh my God, I'm feeling amazing. And I go, well, is that true for me? Like, do I need to go do that? So we have to really bring everything back to what's going on in our body. This is one of the reasons as well. I do really believe that having regular, complete testing as a woman is very important, because you will have the feelings that you're feeling in your body, and then you have the chemistry of what's going on in your body. So when you can see in your blood or in your stool or your urine or your hair, whatever the metric is, oh, wow, I actually thought like my adrenals and thyroid were doing amazing. And then you go and realize like you've got so little in the tank. Or, oh, I thought it was progesterone that was really low. And you go and look at it and you're like, ay caramba, my estrogen is so low. No wonder I'm not staying asleep at night. No wonder I have the hot flashes, right? No wonder whatever it may be. And so, yeah, I would say it's like we are at a time in women's health where the family doctor is probably not going to be your support network. And it's looking at like, what is something that is more full encompassing? Like my ideal perfect world for women's health would be that you had like an annual passport book. And it's like every year you went and you had this like beautiful full workup, and you reconvened with your practitioner who spent that timeline with you of really understanding what is going on, what has gone on, what is our intention moving forward, how do you desire to feel, and like put the plan together, you get the stamp, and it's like, okay, let's have you come back again. And it's very disjointed for a lot of women. And especially when you get in the situation you described where you practitioner hop, you program hop, like you're just all over the place. That's very difficult to actually create true, again, momentum moving forward in your plan, because everybody's going to have a slightly different approach.
Yeah. I've watched myself, and I've also watched other people, not just necessarily in programs, but when it comes to their health, they're like, I'm doing all the things. Number one, when you're saying you're doing all the things, call yourself out on it, right? Because most likely you're not doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing. It's a belief that you're telling yourself, but there is a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy to kind of protect your belief of I'm fundamentally flawed, or there's something going on with my body, or I'm sick and I want to keep it, because who am I without this disease, or without this pain, or without this suffering?
Yeah.
Yeah. What if you were a fully embodied woman who felt alive and aligned and complete energized, and you were not mediocre or normal, and you had more energy than you ever thought you could have, it, perimenopause, menopause, or whatever that looked like. If you grew up with a painful period and all of a sudden you're in this life transition and you have no more pain, do you even know who you are without that pain?
Yeah, and the answer for most people is no. It's an identity crisis and an identity shift that happens. And, again, it's like it's a very convenient truth when we talk about that, where this has been, I don't think that a lot of us, we can talk about it like on the surface, but to go and like penetrate that, to understand that as women, it's never been about us being empowered, embodied, and strong and powerful and bold and courageous or audacious, any of those things. That's actually been a very big threat to the world, right? It's like when you meet a woman who is all of that, there's a little bit like, whoa. And what we'll say is like, oh, she's intimidating, or like, whoa, she's what, insert whatever type of description it'll be when you meet a woman who you can tell is very connected to herself. And it's been very interesting to me in the last couple of years in different ways, but we talk about how authenticity is like the highest frequency, like even higher frequency than love. How is it possible for us to show up authentically as who we truly are if at first we're not connected to the body that we're moving through this life in? And that is always the lens for me is, at the end of the day, I am trying to connect as many women as possible to the body that they're moving through their life in. And when I was younger, I was working with younger women. And now in my mid 40s and parenting teens, I know at this time in my life, I'm like, if I support mom, I support the whole family. That's my job right now. Support the mom, help to educate and empower her to be more embodied in her own body. And if I support her, I am supporting the whole family.
What would you say to that younger version of yourself, that teen version of yourself, when you look at how you have a daughter and how you're educating her on her female body and her menstrual cycle and all the things? What did you need to know that you think would have changed the trajectory of your health?
That I was on the right path from day one, because I was not your average teen. I read Taking Charge of Your Fertility when I was 17 years old. And I was the curious one in gym class and in the change room after, saying to all my girlfriends, what they just taught us is actually not true. My older sister was, when I was 4, she was 16. I was exposed to a lot of things in my house that really helped me become a lot more curious. And I was fortunate enough to have that connection at a young age to just realize that isn't right. That doesn't feel right. And so I would say to my younger self, it's like, keep stoking your curiosity, young girl. Like, keep stoking that fire starter in you, because there's something in there. Trust your body. Trust when it feels right. Trust when it feels wrong. And don't be afraid to feel like you're showing up different than the others. Because at the end of the day, we're not the others. And this is the thing as women too, is we just look at, oh, well, if I'm a woman in my 40s, or I'm a woman in perimenopause, or I'm a business owner, or whatever it may be, what's true for one is true for all. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And in fact, it becomes a bottleneck, because we get frustrated but it's working for her. Like, look what she's doing. And then when we try it, it's like, well, but she does not live your life. She is not you. I don't care how much you have in common. That's not you. So same way you would go and work with somebody to coach and mentor you in your business and like really dial in and focus on you, the individual. You be part of a community and group. But there's also going to be that like one-to-one connection. It is the exact same when it comes to our bodies and our health.
Yes. So this is me. I am like, something's getting me. And I feel like I need to ask different questions or go see someone else. Where is that first step that this woman needs to go in order to say, like, I need to be educated. I need to ask different questions, and I may need a different type of health support. And yes, it is going to cost you money out of your pocket.
It is, for sure. It is going to be an investment. It is going to be an investment. So the first thing that I would say is I would actually look around to some of the people in your life who appear like they have got it figured out and are like a step ahead of you, and say, where did you learn what you know? Did you take someone's program? Whose program did you take? Like, what are you listening to? Where can I get more education? And then I would go and I would register for one of those programs, or at the very least, listen to their podcast. I mean, it's like you're investing in a program, but you're investing also in a relationship. Not everybody is going to jive with you, right? In the way that you teach. Like, I'm not for everyone, but for the women that I am, those women will come away from programs and say, like, Where were you X amount of time ago? I can't believe how much I've learned. I understand. I know for myself, my family, moving forward. So start to ask, like, be an ambassador for other women. I always say this when women learn anything new, don't move through life and hold this on for you. Now go and share it with other people. So that would be step one, is ask others. And then when you find someone who feels like they understand you and they get you as a practitioner, trust the process. Trust the process. And here's the other thing, be honest with your practitioner. So if there's a time when you're working with someone and you're like, something kind of feels off or it's not quite working, go and be honest with the practitioner and just share. This is what I'm looking for. Is that something that you can provide? A great practitioner will be open to that. An excellent practitioner, if it's not their scope of practice, will connect you with the next part of your health community that can help you with that. What isn't great is when you never let the practitioner know about how you felt or what was going on, and you just jump over to another one. Because the reality is, it's like, I say this to women, it's a red flag for me when women will come in and they're like, I've seen umpteen practitioners. And I'm like, let's start there actually. Because if I'm going to 7 different practitioners, I'm the common denominator. So is it that I'm not asking the right questions and that's why I'm not getting the right support? Is it that my expectation of what I should receive is misaligned with what the person I'm working with actually does or delivers? Like, where is the issue in that? And so I think that those are some of the best things to think about in the beginning.
Yeah. And I'm always like, where are you leaking your energy? Where are you leaking your power? Who are you trying to give your power to, in the sense of, like, are you specifically trying to busy yourself to avoid getting the outcome that you desire?
Yes.
So yeah. I always see that if I actually do the thing that I want to do and I get the result that I want, I can see that I'm going to have to deal with something I don't want to deal with. Because like, when you feel really good and you're like, now I've raised my standards for how I treat myself, my standards may have changed for how I show up in other relationships, or how I let other people treat me, or my tolerance for this job that I've been staying in. So 100%. If you want to change one thing, you'll change everything.
Well, this is it. And how you do one thing is how you do everything. We've all heard that quote before, right? And it's like, and what you tolerate persists. And if you don't own your story will own you, and your issues are within your tissues, and the body keeps score. Like, we're really good at knowing all of these things. And then we're just like, oh yeah. And then we just kind of continue on until something butts up again. Try to allow yourself as a woman to get in front of it. Like, the moment your body communicates something, believe her, and then go, what's in that? And study your personal habits. Pay attention. Like, I learn more about myself when I pay attention to myself on a daily basis than I do when I go book an appointment somewhere. I really, honestly, for most of the answers in the beginning anyways, like, just study your own habits, recognize some of the things, and try to figure out how you can hold yourself accountable to what you say actually matters. Because at the end of the day, like, if we don't feel vital and we don't have our health, none of it matters.
None at all. Doesn't matter what you look like, where you go, what your trips are. It's like, what are your priorities? And if you start to align your priorities and you make your health number one, you will see everything that you were chasing was inside of you. You just needed to align it.
100%.
So Jenn, where can people find you if they're like, oh, I need more of her in my life. I want the education. I want more of this perimenopause hormonal conversation. Where can they go?
Instagram is where I hang out. So it's Jenn Pike. My name is spelled with 2 N's. The Perimenopause Project would be the space that I would send you to come and learn with me. I teach this program. You are extremely well resourced. We provide a lot within this. And then we also have our Simplicity Women's Wellness Clinic, where I have 4 other functional medicine practitioners that do work with women who are looking for, sometimes, honestly, it's just like a second opinion, a second set of eyes. And then my podcast, The Simplicity Session. So there's tons of information there and lots of ways to work with us.
All right. I always tell what is if you had to leave someone with like you had like one sentence you could say, you're in a elevator, what is your belief about perimenopause and women's health, menopause, this season of life?
It is single-handedly the most powerful time we will ever live in our bodies as women. It is the great divide and separator between the woman you have been and the woman you will be for the rest of your life.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.